So sometimes people, you might get a negative response too. Sometimes you might get a positive response and sometimes you might get a negative response. So all the time you could not expect a positive response. So when you get a positive response, so that is kind of a very good feeling. So you would basically like the response, and you would also feel good. But when you get a negative response, especially when you don't expect negative feedback from the other end, then it's quite disappointing. So you must understand how to handle these kind of negative responses and how to handle these kind of situations. All right. So it's always not necessary that you will be getting positive response. Sometimes you might also get negative response, but that should not demotivate you, or that particular response should not make you feel sad. You must be able to handle that feedback or response in a positive manner. And you should not end up like arguing with the other person, or telling offensive to the other person. So you should not end up doing that. So today I will be basically teaching you how to handle these kind of situations when you get negative responses. All right. I'll just share my screen. I hope it's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So here are some tips to handle a negative feedback or a negative response. The first point is to listen carefully. So whenever somebody is giving you a feedback, whether it's a positive feedback or it's a negative feedback, you are supposed to listen to the person carefully in order to understand what the person is trying to say you. All right, so if you do not listen to the other person properly, then you will not be able to understand what the other person is actually trying to say, whether the other person is trying to say something positive or negative. So that is why the best way is to listen to the other person carefully. All right, so that is why listen to the other person carefully, even though the person is providing some sort of negative feedback. So, as I had already said, that you're not supposed to argue or you know like uh, tell something offensive to the other person, and try not to lose your calm. So do not interrupt when the other person is telling you something. So you basically can listen to the other person carefully, and also try to understand what he or she actually means. Sometimes a negative feedback might also be something that might help you to do the task properly. So always criticisms are not good, or always criticisms are not bad. Criticism can also, push you to do something good, to complete a task. So you have to figure it out whether the other person is trying to actually, dominate you or to make you feel bad about yourself, or the person actually is giving a negative feedback just to make you realize that you had done a mistake and you have to improve in these things. And in that way, that particular feedback is going to push you to do the task properly. So criticism can be good sometimes and criticism can sometimes be bad, but it depends upon the type of criticism and it depends upon the way the other person is presenting it. So sometimes when you uh, encounter or when you witness this kind of situations, you definitely would not feel good, isn't it? So we don't like to hear something negative, or we also do not expect a negative feedback. But sometimes you can definitely get negative feedback in order to help yourself to improve. So you have to understand that whether the person is suggesting you some ways to actually force yourself to do a particular thing in a better way, or the person is telling you certain negative things without any reason. So you have to try to figure it out, and if it's something that can help you, then definitely you should use the suggestion. You should definitely listen to the other person and take his suggestions seriously, and then definitely you will be able to do your task properly. So that is why whether it's a positive feedback or a negative feedback, you must listen to the other end properly, especially in case of formal environment, especially in case of when you're dealing with something official or professional. So you must be able to listen to the other person carefully so that you can understand the situation, or even if you have made some kind of mistake, so that you can understand what is your mistake and then work in a better way. Next point is distancing your emotional self. So at workplace, you should always try to distance your emotional self. You should always try to, keep your emotions aside. Why? Because your emotions can be dangerous at workplace. Your colleagues, your boss, your manager, your supervisor will tell you hundreds of things. They will tell you hundreds of things. Some will be good, some things you are going to definitely like, and few things you will not like. So if you are somebody who is too emotional, or who is affected easily, then you would not be able to survive. You would not be able to survive in that particular situation. So that is why it's suggested that you keep your emotions aside, and especially when you're getting a negative feedback, so do not take it personally. You're not supposed to take it personally, especially in your workplace, especially at your workplace. You are not supposed to take it as a personal attack. So take it professionally, try to take it professionally, and try to just uh, listen as a professional, and try to stay away from that emotions, try to stay away from that emotional self, and try to keep aside your emotions, and that in that way you will definitely be able to handle negative feedback. Otherwise, sometimes negative feedbacks, um, they can cause a lot of imbalance in our in our life, and especially mental illness or imbalance, not illness, like mental imbalance. So it might create a lot of psychological imbalance as well. Too much of negativity definitely causes a lot of imbalance. So that is why if you can take it, professionally, and if you do not take it personally, and if you like don't get sad after that, then definitely that can help you to get rid of that zone. Next point is, don't try to prove someone is wrong. So especially when your boss is giving you some kind of negative feedback, or if the response that your boss has given to you is somewhat negative, do not try to prove him wrong. Okay? When we try to prove someone wrong, we basically are trying to prove ourselves right, and then we become close-minded. That means we cannot listen to anything, and we cannot mm, get we cannot absorb any kind of information, and that particular information might be useful for me. So when you try to prove that the other person is wrong, your mind, it closes. So that is why you might lose the opportunity of absorbing a lot of useful information, and a lot of like good suggestions. Okay, a person might give you a suggestion, and his tone might be a little rough. So it depends upon person to person, how the person portrays himself or herself, or how a person expresses his or her opinions. So an opinion can be given, in a good way, and an opinion can also be given, and then the same opinion can also be given in a very rough manner if your tone is improper. So the other person will find it very offensive. But try to, as I had said, that try to listen to it properly, and you might get a lot of useful information as well. So when you try to prove the other person wrong, then you will end up fighting with the other person, and also you will not be able to absorb any kind of information or any kind of suggestions. Okay, so that is why you're supposed to just listen, and just stay away from your emotions, and try not to prove that the other person is wrong. Next is to ask questions. So now questions can definitely uh, help the other person to communicate clearly, to communicate properly, or to share the message properly with you. If somebody is giving a negative response, then definitely you have the right to question, you have the right to understand where the problem lies. So that is why you can definitely ask questions, and this is also going to help you to communicate properly, as well as the other individual will also be able to communicate clearly whatever he or she wants to, whatever he or she wants to say. Next is putting yourself in the shoes of the other person or a customer. Okay, now suppose you are handling a customer, and your customer is given you a negative feedback about a product or a service. All right, so now you cannot argue with the customer, you cannot just act in a weird way with the customer, isn't it? He or she is your customer or your client. So you cannot behave, rudely with that particular person. And you have to be calm and composed when you handle these kind of situations. So The best way of handling this kind of situations is to put yourself in the shoes of that particular person. Then you would be able to understand what the other person is going through. So you will be able to understand what actually the other person is trying to say you, and in that way you will definitely be able to do your job properly, and you will definitely be able to help the other person. Next is ask for time. If you get some kind of negative feedbacks or some kind of negative response, uh, take some time. You can take some time to understand the whole situation. It is not always necessary that you have to understand at that particular moment itself. So you can take some time to understand the whole situation so that you can think carefully, and so that you can plan what you're supposed to say. So when somebody is giving you a negative response, so generally being human beings, we get angry, isn't it? So we will get angry, we will not like the way, we will not like that particular response, and especially when the other person is like rude, when the other person's tone is not at all good. But still, you cannot fight with the other person, you should not fight with the other person. Generally you can definitely, like if you want to, you can definitely create a scene out there, and both of you can argue with one another, shout at the top of your voice, but that is not a good way of solving any kind of issue. So that is why if somebody is even being rude to you, so you will definitely feel not feel good about that particular situation, and you would need some time. So when you do not have any answer, when you feel sad or stressed, too stressed, then you can definitely ask for some time in order to get back to that person and answer to the questions of that person, or explain the whole situation to the other person. So you can ask for some time in order to collect your thoughts, in order to think carefully and plan what you're supposed to say. The seventh point is to apologize. So if you feel that you had actually made a mistake, so then do not hesitate to apologize. Do not be ever, do not ever hesitate to apologize. If you have, if you had made any kind of mistake, then accept it. That is why you're getting the negative response from the other end. So that's why the first point is to think, to listen to the other person carefully, so that you can understand whether that person is actually genuinely, telling something, genuinely reacting in that way, or the person has no point of reacting in that way, or just creating a scene. So that's why if you listen to the person carefully, then you will be able to understand it. And if you feel like that the person is actually upset, and if you feel that you had actually made some mistake, then do not just hesitate to say a sorry. And especially in your professional life, sorry is something that can work. Okay, so at times when you do not have anything to say, when the other person is complaining, suppose your boss is complaining, suppose your client, your customer is complaining, your supervisor is complaining regarding you something, then definitely, even if you know that you did not upset them, or you have not you're not responsible for that particular situation, and you're just being blamed, even then you can say a sorry, just to just to balance the whole situation. So sorry is something that is that kind of works, and apology is something uh, that will definitely help you to resolve a particular issue. So that is why do not hesitate to apologize. And sometimes you even have to apologize, you just even have to apologize, uh, like even if you have not done anything, even if you are not responsible, so even then you have to apologize in order to in order to just handle the whole situation. But apology, apology does not mean that you have to over apologize. You have to keep on saying sorry, 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 sorry. Once you say you're sorry, once you apologize, that's enough. You don't have to keep on saying it over and over and over again. All right. The eighth point is to resolve the issue quickly and fix the process. So this is one of the important parts. You must try to resolve the issue as soon as possible. If you think that there's a problem, that you must try to resolve the problem as soon as possible and fix the process so that it does not happen again, so that you or somebody else do not repeat it again. So that is why fixing the process and resolving the issue, first of all you have to resolve the issue, and then you have to fix the process. So these are also very necessary. So that is why you have to first of all think, why are you being criticized? Why are you getting that particular negative feedback or that response? So for the whole situation, whether it was your mistake or whether somebody else has done a mistake, so you have to figure out the thing and you have to resolve it accordingly. So these are the certain ways of handling negative responses, and apart from these there are other things as well, like as I had said that do not take things personally. So you need to keep, as I had said, that you need to keep your your emotional self apart. So do not take things personally, because when you take things personally, then it will definitely hurt you. So the basic problem is with taking things personally with a kind of a person who is a negative person, or maybe a person who is giving you a negative feedback. So that is why do not just try to take, do not just try to avoid to take things personally. And yes, these are some of the ways through which you can solve these kind of you can resolve this kind of issues, and these are some of the ways how you should handle negative feedbacks. So that's all. Any questions, any doubts?
No, ma'am.